Let's get some analysis with France 24's Oliver Farry, who's with me here in the studio. And Oliver, what is your best understanding right now of the military junta's strategy? Is there any sign they're budging for the moment?
There are a few signs of that, and the putschists in Niamey, they're holding firm, having refused to meet with representatives from the West African bloc Eccowas and from the African Union. They also refused to allow US Deputy Secretary of State Victoria Nuland to meet with the deposed President Mohamed Bazoum, though Bazoum did speak over the phone to Nuland's boss, Antony Blinken. Now, the junta leaders say that it's not safe for an Eccowas delegation to visit Niger, given popular anger at sanctions that have been imposed over the past couple of weeks. Now, there certainly are Nigerians who do support the coup, but it does seem like a rather self-serving excuse. You would expect a military force that is running the country to be able to assure security, especially in a country that is, by the standards of the region, relatively stable. We don't know the end game just yet. ECOWAS has threatened military intervention, but they've done nothing since their deadline for an ultimatum to restore Bazoum passed on Sunday. But outside of Niger, most parties want to prioritise the diplomatic route. That's what Antony Blinken told our sister station RFI yesterday. But the sanctions are likely to remain in force as long as there's no response from the junta. Western governments, including France and the US, are loath to use a military response, particularly themselves, even though they face perhaps their own bases being closed down in Niger. ECOWAS is probably a little bit less reticent, given there's a sense that after military coups in Burkina Faso and Mali in recent years, they might be worried that there would be contagion in the region. But for now, though, all parties outside of Niger, including ECOWAS, are being cautious. Inside Niger, there could be movement with the announcement today by a former Tuareg rebel and former government minister Rissa Agbula, who said that he was going to form a so-called Council of Resistance for the Republic to reinstate President Bazoum, but it's too soon to say what effect that will have.
And you mentioned Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State. He's been quite involved in this crisis, hasn't he? He's spoken to President Bazoum. He's been speaking as well to the media. And one of his messages now is that the Russian mercenary group Wagner will profit from the instability in Niger. Give us a sense of what he means by that.
Well, Antony Blinken was careful to say that there was no indication that Wagner was behind the coup, but he does see the mercenary group as being a potential future actor in Niger. That's logical given Wagner's very heavy presence in neighbouring countries and also elsewhere in Africa. Now, while Russia's name might be fairly tarnished in the West, it's still got fairly good standing in Africa. This is partly because of a legacy of Soviet times when the USSR was perceived as being supportive of anti-colonial movements, and also because Russia, unlike other European powers, has no real historical baggage on the continent. Vladimir Putin is also viewed by many Africans as being more in line with traditional African values than Western countries are. And Putin is carefully cultivating relations with African leaders. He hosted a summit that had quite a few of them in St. Petersburg last month. This will explain why a lot of Russian flags sprouted up at pro-junta protests last month in Niamey. Wagner is also perceived as being more effective in battling jihadists in the Sahel than Western troops. So Wagner gets a fairly easy run of popular opinion in Africa, at least for now. So there's definitely receptiveness towards Russia, but we'll have to see actually if that will play out in the long run.
All right, Oliver Farry, thanks very much.